Welcome back to Sissy Maya. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to never miss an update. Additionally, consider subscribing to my Patreon to get access to these features, and much more. My life feels completely different now. This morning, everything seemed ordinary, but now it's all turned upside down in countless ways. I'm overwhelmed, lost, guilty, and downhearted. Today, inadvertently, I've caused the disappearance of countless people from existence. I detest my own thoughts, loathe my physical form, and I know nothing will ever be as it was. The hardest part is accepting full responsibility. There's no one else to blame. I've caused this, and I'll have to face the consequences when my time comes. This morning began like any other. I woke up around 5 to prepare breakfast for my stepfather and walk the dog. The dawn painted the scene in soft yellows, with dew-kissed grass shimmering in the distant light and mist-capped mountains looming. It was cold but calm, though I felt as if I'd emerged from the wreckage of a collapsed building. After completing my tasks, I returned to bed. 5 in the morning is far too early for a night owl like me. At noon, I woke again, this time feeling somewhat more prepared for the day. After a quick shower and breakfast, I phoned my girlfriend. "Roger, you have to come over right now," she exclaimed. "Why?" I asked, still groggy from my interrupted sleep. "I think I've figured out how to solve your college money problem," she replied, brimming with excitement. "What problem?" I didn't realize I had one. "The problem of not being sure if you can afford college, dummy." "Oh, that. Are your parents going to dip into their vast fortune and lend me some?" I joked, knowing her family wouldn't offer financial assistance. "No, silly. Just come over, you'll see." "Okay, let me get dressed." "Great, see you in 20. You remember where I live, right?" I chuckled at her question. I visited her house daily. "Of course." "Good, see you then." She ended the call. 20 minutes later, I stood on her doorstep, gazing at the city below, a sight I'd always envied. My dreams of a house with a breathtaking view contrasted sharply with my reality of living in a trailer in the floodplain. From her vantage point, people resembled ants. From mine, real ants scurried across garbage heaps, invading our home. Her mother greeted me at the door and directed me to Jessica's room. "Tell Jessica," she instructed as I climbed the stairs, "that her father wants her to tidy up before the cleaning service arrives." "Okay," I replied before entering the room. Jessica sat on her bed, absorbed in music and her clarinet. "Roger," she exclaimed, rushing to embrace me. Her slender arms wrapped around me, and I kissed her cheek before sitting down. "What's the big news?" I inquired. "This," she announced, holding up a small golden necklace. "Planning to pawn it off to me?" I joked. "You know I don't need your charity. Your constant treat at dinners is embarrassing enough." "No, silly, you won't want to pawn it," she replied, brushing her hair aside. "I got it this morning from a vendor at the street fair." "And how much did you pay?" $10. "Why?" "The vendor claimed it could alter reality." "Right, Jessica," I chuckled, trying to conceal my amusement. "Sure it can." "No, really," she insisted. "It can change the past to fulfill any wish you have." Sure, I laughed, thinking she was joking. "Anyway," she continued, undeterred, "there are 3 conditions for each alteration." "And what might those be?" I asked, my smile fading as her seriousness grew unsettling. "First, if you remove something from existence, intentionally or accidentally, you can't bring it back. Second, anyone present during the alteration remembers both the before and after. And third, for every change, something else compensates." "Okay," I nodded, feeling increasingly uneasy. Her conviction was disconcerting. Had she gone mad? Was she under some hallucinogenic influence? "And I believe this because I've tested it," she asserted. "What?" I exclaimed, incredulous. "You know how wealthy my family is." "Yeah. Well, this morning, we were as destitute as your family. So, I could make my family affluent," I quipped. Exactly. Let me see that, I demanded, taking the necklace. Clutching it tightly, I whispered, "Make my family rich," before playfully pretending to be possessed. "This thing's nonsense," I declared. "I don't feel any richer." "Don't you?" "No." "Then look in the mirror and see for yourself." I did, stepping back in shock. My appearance hadn't changed, but my attire had. I wore a polo shirt instead of my usual worn tee, stylish dockers instead of faded jeans, and brand new name brand shoes. I looked like someone from a wealthy family. "Oh my God!" I exclaimed. "This thing actually works." "I told you," Jessica said. "I need to go home and see what else has changed. Will you come with me?" Of course. We hopped into my car, which hadn't changed much. After all, even wealthy kids often drove old beaters. We headed towards where my home had stood that morning, only to find it replaced by a convenience store. At that moment, I was riding a wave of euphoria, glowing with happiness. I couldn't wipe the grin off my face and found myself singing along to the radio incessantly. I was rich, my college worries were gone, and financial security at 18 felt perfect. "You must live elsewhere now," Jessica remarked. "We didn't used to live all the way up here." "How'd you find your way here then?" "I went to the street fair with my mother." "Oh," I scratched my head, unsure of our next move. Stepping out of the car, I examined the store's sign. "Hey," I called to Jessica, "my parents must own this place." "Cool." She joined me in the sunlit parking lot, her beauty momentarily stunning me. The sunlight highlighted her hair, perfectly complementing her deep brown eyes. "Wow," I said, "you were always pretty, but now you're stunning." "Huh. You look twice as beautiful as you did this morning." "It must be the side effect of your wish," she mused. "I noticed you looked much nicer when you came over earlier." "So, wishing for riches made us more attractive to each other?" I asked. "Seems like it," she confirmed. "That's strange. I thought the consequence would be something negative." "Apparently not." Taking my hand, she said, "Come on, let's find out where you live." "Yeah, but how? I can't go around asking people where my house is." "Just look it up in the phone book," she suggested, making me feel foolish for not thinking of it myself. "Good idea," I agreed, heading to the nearby booth. 232 Haverland, I said. "Do you know where that is?" "Yeah, it's about 2 blocks from my new place." "Then let's go." We got back into my car and started to leave. Pausing, I took one last look at my old neighborhood, bidding farewell to a former hell that was no longer mine. The old man who used to live next door, or rather next to the gas station, emerged from his house, shaking his fist at me. Jessica burst into laughter. "What's so funny?" I asked. "He doesn't even recognize you anymore, and he's still yelling," she replied, grinning. "Yeah, well, he's just an old busybody," I began, but I stopped when I realized I still had the necklace on. Jessica glanced down, then back up with fear in her eyes. The old man had vanished, replaced by a dusty, flea-ridden goat tearing into a garbage bag. "Damn," she exclaimed, "you have to be more careful about what you say while wearing that thing." "I know, I feel terrible now." "Take it off, and let's get out of here." "Okay," I agreed, dropping the jewelry into the ashtray and speeding out of the parking lot, bidding my old driveway goodbye for the last time. Fear and guilt gripped me. I had transformed an innocent old man into a goat. What had I done? I switched off the radio, and we drove in silence, navigating towards my new home. My stomach churned, and my head pounded. I felt awful. The house exceeded my expectations. If anything, it was grander and more elegant than Jessica's mansion. As we stepped through the front door and into the hallway, I was taken aback. This was supposed to be my family's home, so where were the gaudy decor pieces, the dirty dishes, and the piles of rubbish? The place was immaculate and tastefully furnished. I couldn't help but smile. "There you are, Roger," my mother greeted. "I've been looking for you." "Why aren't you at work?" I inquired. "Work?" she repeated, puzzled. "Where do I work?" Oh, right. I realized suddenly that my mother no longer needed her job at the supermarket. Besides, what wealthy woman worked at a supermarket? Where's my brother? Who? My mother asked. Daniel, I said, a sudden fear creeping in that I had wished him out of existence. You mean your sister? I must have had a peculiar expression on my face, and Jessica mirrored it with her own shock. Yeah, I replied. You're acting strange, my mother remarked, her expression shifting to annoyance. Have you been drinking? No, just fooling around. Fine, just stay put for a few hours, okay? Yeah, sure, I'll be in my room, I said, hurrying up the stairs, choosing a door at random, hoping it led to my room. Instead, I found a very feminine 16-year-old girl staring back at me. What do you want, Roger? She asked. Nothing, I mumbled, retreating back into the hallway. The next door I tried was indeed my room. It hadn't changed much. My belongings were newer and better maintained, but otherwise, everything remained the same. I walked over to my desk in the far corner, hoping to find my family photo album. It was still there. Jessica entered the room and sat on my bed. Look at this, I exclaimed, holding up a photograph of my family, with my parents behind me and a smiling blonde-haired girl. I've turned Daniel into my sister. I heard, Jessica said, her face drained of color, mouth agape. What am I going to do? I started to cry, overwhelmed by guilt. I felt like a monster. Don't worry about it, Jessica reassured me. She doesn't remember being a boy. What? She's probably happier as a wealthy girl than she was as a trailer kid. Please, just leave me alone for a moment. I need to figure this out and come to terms with everything that's changed. Okay, Jessica agreed. I'll head back to my house. All right, I'll call you in an hour. I flipped through the book, browsing random photographs of places I'd never visited. There was one of Daniel and me in front of the Eiffel Tower, and another of me on the steps of the Capitol building. Despite having seemingly traveled extensively, I couldn't recall any of these experiences. After what felt like hours, though it was probably only 10 minutes, I returned the book to my desk and, after one last glance around my room, stepped back into the hallway. Now what? I pondered. Hey Roger, someone called out. I turned to see Daniel poking her head out of her bedroom door. Yeah, I replied, just a sec. I retreated into my room, then slumped to the floor. I had thought I was prepared to face her, but seeing my brother standing in the hallway, wearing a dress and looking so remarkably feminine, overwhelmed me. Taking deep breaths, I stood up and re-entered the hallway, putting on a brave face as I met Daniel's gaze. Surely, her essence hadn't changed. What's up? I asked. Do you think this lipstick is too bright? She inquired. What a terrible question. My heart sank, and I could feel the strain on my psyche. It looks fine, I managed to say, forcing a smile. Thanks. No problem. What next? I descended the stairs, admiring the colorful aspects of the house and the magnificent artwork on the walls. It was a far cry from my previous existence. In the living room, I stumbled upon a large, deep brown piano. I had always harbored a desire to own one, a frivolous desire tucked away in my mind. Running my fingers across the ivory keys, I listened to their tone, silently wishing I knew how to play. Wait, I thought. Why not learn? What harm could come from it? Racing outside, across the wide, green lawn, I reached the carport. Retrieving the necklace from the ashtray, I clenched it tightly in my hand. Pausing, I considered the consequences. What could possibly go wrong? And had anything truly negative occurred thus far? Sure, my brother had become a sister, but she appeared content with the change. I wish I had musical talent and could play the piano, I muttered. Making another wish, a voice interrupted. It was Jessica. Yeah, I replied, just a silly one. I think it's a pretty cool wish, she said, smiling and placing her hand on my shoulder. Who cares what you think? I retorted. And where did you come from, anyway? I forgot my purse in your car, I was just coming back to get it. She reached through the window and retrieved her small leather bag. How's your, sister doing? Well, that's a complicated question. She seems okay with it. And how are you handling it? I was thinking about it just now, and if she doesn't mind, and since she doesn't remember, then what does it matter? It's a small price to pay for being wealthy. Wow. I didn't realize you were so focused on material possessions, she remarked. I'm not, but still, it's like I've endured poverty all my life, so why does something like that matter if the burden is eased for everyone? I explained. She nodded understandingly. We settled down in the grass. I plucked a small dandelion from the lawn and began disassembling it. Above us, the sun swiftly moved behind a thick, white cloud, casting a fleeting shadow over us. The valley below basked in the bright sunlight, its colors vibrant and radiant. Pale glints of white danced off every surface. The air was crisp, and the gentle breeze caressed us. I started to feel at ease. Well, Jessica suggested amiably, since you can play the piano, let's go in and play a duet. Okay, I agreed. We entered my front door, and I was once again taken aback by the subtle yet refined decor of my home. Very tasteful, very elegant. Our footsteps echoed against the tiled floor of the atrium as we hurried to the piano. I sat down and, without much thought, played a remarkably accurate rendition of the Ninth Symphony. I felt pleased with myself. Now it's my turn, Jessica announced. I stood up, and she took my place. She sat there for several minutes, gazing at the keys, occasionally tapping a few. A look of frustration and anxiety crept onto her face. Eventually, she stood. I don't know why, she confessed, but it's like I've never played a piano in my life. Damn, Jessica, I exclaimed, it must be my fault. Yeah, she agreed, I think it is your fault. I'm sorry, I apologized sincerely. Millimeter, she responded, not entirely convinced. No, really, I am sorry. I mean, I didn't know this would happen. Sure you didn't. I mean, her expression softened, her tone lighter. How could you know? It was just a silly wish. Yeah, exactly. I guess don't worry about it. Okay. She rose and wiped the sweat from her forehead. You didn't mean to do it, I suppose, she conceded. But I have to get you back somehow. Let me see that thing. I handed it to her. I wish I had all of your artistic talent, you know, those drawings and stuff. Damn, that infuriated me, but she had every right to do it. I stood there, stunned and annoyed, but otherwise okay. Feeling better now? I inquired. In fact, I do. Good. Let's go back outside, okay? Yeah, sure. We exited the door, passing my silent mother. Once again, I marveled at how much younger she appeared. It seemed the wealthy aged slower than the poor. Outside was lovely. We sat in the grass and embraced, each of us longing for our old talents but secretly relishing our new ones. That moment was perfect, so full of life and brightness. The mountains of western Montana glistened in the distance, and from our perch on the hill, we could hear the distant rumble of engines in the valley below. I held Jessica close, feeling better with each passing moment. Inside, the telephone rang. I ignored it, breathing deeply and soaking in the late summer sun. Everywhere, there was peace. Then my mother emerged from the door, her expression a mix of shock and anguish. Tears streamed down her face. I leaped up, nearly tripping over Jessica, and rushed to her side. What's the matter, Mom? I inquired, alarmed. My brother, she muttered, her voice trembling. He's gone. What? You mean Uncle Joe? Yes. What happened to him? He was in Mountain View City and he was killed in a robbery. Oh my God. It was overwhelming. Was this the consequence of one of my wishes, or was it simply a tragic coincidence? I needed to find out. I hurried to Jessica, who was hunched over with her head between her knees. I'm sorry, Roger, she murmured. Yeah, I responded. Well, let's not jump to conclusions yet. Let me see that necklace. Ah, good idea. She passed it to me. I wish Uncle Joe hadn't been killed, I whispered as I pocketed the necklace. My mother's tears ceased, replaced by a look of serenity. How's your brother? I asked her anxiously, attempting to sound nonchalant yet fearing the worst if my wish hadn't worked. He's enjoying himself down in Mountain View Park, my mother replied. Park. Jessica and I exchanged a glance, and she was by my side in an instant. Do you have a map, Mrs. Devins? Jessica inquired. Who's Mrs. Devins? My mother asked, puzzled. Oh, right, in this reality, she hadn't divorced my father. She meant Mrs. Kupok, Mom, I quickly corrected. Yeah, Jessica chimed in, looking bewildered. I don't know what I was thinking. Do you have an atlas or something? Yes, it's in the car, my mother replied. Okay. We sprinted toward the Lexus in the driveway. There, on the seat, lay a map of the US. I opened it, scanning for Wyoming. Oh my God, this can't be real, I gasped. It's not here. You're joking, right? Jessica said, her voice tinged with disbelief. No, Mountain View City, with a population of 2 million, is gone. The capital of Wyoming has vanished. Damn. Jessica was in shock. In its place, there's just some stupid national park. Damn. I hate to say it, I whispered, but I think I've wiped out 2 million people. Oh my God, Roger. Oh my God. We embraced tightly, sinking to the ground, each silently praying for the victims of my reckless wish. Nothing would ever be the same. Tears streamed down my face. Oh my God, I cried out, what have I done? You couldn't have known, Jessica reassured me, holding my hand. I've caused the deaths of 2 or 3 million people, I wailed. Not necessarily. You only wished their city out of existence. Maybe they've relocated. Look at the map. Okay, I sniffled, tears still flowing down my cheeks, overwhelmed with guilt. See, Jessica whispered soothingly in my ear, here's a place called Denver. Who's ever heard of a city called Denver? Right, I muttered weakly, okay. I began to feel a bit relieved. I hadn't directly caused harm to these people, I had just displaced them. You're all right now, okay? Yeah. Let's go back inside. You can play around on the piano for me, and I'll sketch a portrait of you. Okay. We rose and re-entered the house, passing my mother sprawled on the porch with a glass of wine in hand. A pang of regret washed over me. Some things never change. I could make my family wealthy and bring back my father, sure, but it wouldn't deter my mother from alcohol. The specifics may have shifted, from wine in a glass instead of beer in a can, but the outcome remained the same. It was only 3 in the afternoon, yet she was already intoxicated. I paused to observe her. What do you need, dear? She muttered. Well, I really wish you wouldn't drink so much, I murmured quietly, ensuring she didn't overhear me. Instantly, it was done. The glass didn't vanish, but somehow, in an infinitesimally brief moment, the wine transformed into Coke. I chuckled. What on earth? My mother exclaimed. Huh. Suddenly, I feel a lot better. What's been troubling you? I don't know, but whatever it was, it's resolved now. With a smile, I walked into the house, leaving my mother seated with a bewildered yet relieved expression. Things were looking up. We settled on the tiled floor of the living room, letting our bare feet warm the cool ceramic. Outside, the pale yellow leaves of a shrubby tree brushed against the window, casting intriguing oval shadows through the light curtains. I embraced her, and she returned the gesture. Everything felt perfect, just as it was meant to be. Somewhere within the vast White House, a stereo softly began playing old music. I rose and offered my hand to Jessica. Would you care to dance with me? I asked. Neither of us knows how to dance. Then I wish we were both graceful dancers, and while we're at it, I wish we were both beautiful people. I gasped as the wish took effect. Jessica, always lovely and warm, seemed to radiate an even more stunning glow. Her light brown hair deepened and darkened, her figure smoothed out imperfections until she stood before me as a vision of beauty and grace. You embody perfection, I whispered into her ear as we began to dance. She blushed, and in that moment, I recalled my English teacher's interpretation of the poem My Last Duchess. When, he had asked, is a woman most beautiful? After sex, I had foolishly replied. No, he corrected me, when she blushes. I had giggled then, not believing him. But now, as Jessica's cheeks took on a subtle rosy hue to match her lips, I wholeheartedly agreed. She was more beautiful than ever. The blush faded, but the love I felt remained. We swayed and twirled across the floor, basking in each other's warmth. The music couldn't have been more perfect, and the moment couldn't have been more beautiful. It would forever remain etched in my memory as the pinnacle of my existence, the benchmark, the highest point where everything seemed to fall into place. A car pulled into the driveway. Jessica's parents stepped out, and she glanced out the window, a stray hair delicately trailing down her cheek. Man, I can't believe they're here now, she muttered. They always intrude on us like this. I know, I said. I wish they'd just disappear. I halted, realizing my blunder. Jessica shot me a glare before returning her gaze to the window, her mouth gaping and eyes squeezed shut. A piercing shriek escaped her lips. The repercussions of my action were evident. In the spot on our lawn where her parents had stood mere seconds ago, 2 large Canadian geese now resided. Oh my God, Jessica, I muttered, I'm incredibly sorry. You're sorry? Her voice dripped with sarcasm. I can't believe I ever gave you that thing. You've ruined my life, turned your brother into a girl, and transformed some guy into a damn goat. What's wrong with you? Tears streamed down her cheeks. She was right. Every wish I'd made so far had led to disastrous outcomes. I couldn't bring myself to meet her eyes, instead tracing the dark contours of the living room carpet with my gaze. Give me that thing, she demanded, lunging forward to snatch the necklace from my grasp, accidentally scratching my finger in the process. I felt worse than I'd ever felt before. God, I wish I wasn't your girlfriend, she whispered. I wish we had never been romantically involved. A fitting wish, I whimpered, devoid of any sense of righteousness. Yeah, well, it's the only way to ensure I never have to see your stupid face again. Her tone was serious, brimming with hatred. She might have continued, but at that moment, my mother entered the room, accompanied by a tall, well-dressed man with white hair. Roger, Jessica, she announced, this is John, a business associate of your father's. Hello, I managed to say, my tone still subdued and my demeanor withdrawn. John, my mother continued, these are my 2 eldest children, Roger and Jessica. Nice to meet you kids, he said, extending his hand. I was too stunned to respond, let alone shake his hand. I fled the room, hearing Jessica storm out the other door. Things had spiraled into a realm of absurdity, and I was feeling nauseous. I roamed alone for a few hours, wandering the familiar streets of my hometown, grappling with the puzzle of where everything had gone awry. Was it the lure of wealth, the hubris, or perhaps the desire for power that had clouded my judgment? Or maybe it was my relentless longing to have Jessica by my side at all times. It seemed plausible that all 3 factors had contributed, but what had I gained from it? Now, I was just another disheartened, solitary rich kid with a stunning sister. The notion turned my stomach, and I vowed to myself that I would never lay a hand on Jessica again. As I crossed the bridge, contemplating momentarily the idea of leaping, I ultimately dismissed it. Suicide was a grave sin, and what would become of my mother? Pressing onward, I refused to look back, fixating my gaze on the colossal peace symbol painted on a weathered white billboard erected by some long-forgotten hippie. Peace, a wondrous, idealistic notion. Regrettably, I thought, it remains perpetually out of reach. Eventually, I arrived at a quaint coffee shop nestled in the heart of downtown. Navigating through the bustling 5 o'clock crowds, I entered. True to form, my friend Matt sat in a booth, flanked by 2 attractive young women. Matt, the epitome of zen, the embodiment of composure. He was also the closest friend I had, and for a fleeting moment, I feared that my wish had ruptured our bond. However, He beckoned me over. "Hey Roger," he greeted me. "You look like hell." "Yeah, man," I muttered. "Can I have a word with you?" "Absolutely," he turned to his companions. "This is Roger, the only guy I trust implicitly." The girls giggled. "Mind if I steal him for a moment?" They departed, leaving behind a tantalizing trail of fragrance. I took a seat. "So, what's on your mind?" he inquired, brandishing a hefty cigar. "I need to share a story with you that you won't believe." "Doubt it," he retorted. "Remember, you're speaking to the guy who practically invented the police-state conspiracy. Or, man, you still buy into that. More and more each day." "Yeah, I can see your point sometimes. But anyhow, I recounted my tale. Initially met with skepticism, Matt's expression gradually morphed into one of acceptance and concern. "Damn, man," he exclaimed, "I can't say I'm entirely convinced, but if you can prove this thing works, perhaps I can lend a hand." "Sure," I replied. "Could you give me a ride home?" "Of course." By the time we arrived back at my house, the sun had dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in a deep, foreboding purple hue. I approached the door slowly, noting the absence of light. "I wonder what's going on," I pondered aloud. "You think Jessica sought revenge by harming your family?" Matt ventured. "Damn, I can't believe I just said that. I can't fathom that you're trying to convince me your sister used to be your girlfriend." He shook his head. "You two, never, right?" "No, thank heavens." "Good." I pushed the door open to find a quiet, deserted house. "Where is everyone?" I called out. "They went out for dinner," came Jessica's voice from the balcony. "Why didn't you go?" I questioned. "Because I wanted to wait for you." "Why?" "I realized while you were away that you didn't intentionally turn my parents into geese, but I also recognized that I needed to ensure you never touch me again. I can't stand to look at you. You're a thoughtless, impulsive fool." She descended the stairs. "Well, what's your plan?" I inquired. "Simple, I have to be your sister because of that foolish wish, but I certainly don't want a brother." "Huh?" I struggled to grasp her meaning. "I wish you were my exceptionally pretty sister." "Enjoy being girly," she declared before vanishing. I blacked out. Amidst the haze, I heard Matt mutter, "Oh my God, I can't believe it." No wonder he didn't believe it. I barely did myself. "Roger." A voice pierced the darkness. "Roger, are you there?" I mumbled, "Yeah, I suppose I am." Things began to clear up, and the pain subsided. Above me, a radiant circle danced against a white expanse. Am I dead? I pondered. My vision sharpened. It was just a hanging light, casting gentle shadows, burning brightly. Matt peered down at me. How do you feel, Roger?" he inquired. "I'm not entirely sure yet. Everything feels numb." "Do you remember what happened?" "Yeah, I do." "Well, that's a relief, less of a shock." "Yeah, Matt." "What do I look like now?" "Similar to before, but slightly different, certain features. Your features are softer, and your hair's a tad longer, chin length maybe." "Ooh. Do you believe me now?" "I suppose, not entirely. I'm still waiting for a wake-up call." "Damn, Roger, how are you feeling? You must be freaking out." He was right. I should have been terrified, screaming, but strangely, I wasn't overly concerned. Another wish by Jessica, perhaps. "I'm not sure. Where did she go?" I murmured. "Somewhere upstairs," he replied. "Help me up." "Sure." He lifted my arm, helping me stand. A brief wave of nausea hit me, but I quickly steadied myself. "Let's go talk to her," I suggested. "Are you sure that's wise?" "She still has that thing," he cautioned. "She won't use it on you." I hesitated. By all accounts, I should have felt a medley of bizarre sensations, but for some reason, everything felt oddly right. I blinked twice and began ascending the stairs, with Matt following cautiously. The top floor was dimly lit, and I could discern breathing from an open doorway. I tentatively approached the sound, my footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. Jessica. I called softly. Jessica, are you here? Yes, came a distant, detached voice. I'm here. Jessica, I'm sorry. I couldn't see her. I was speaking into the darkness. A hand rested on my shoulder, causing me to jump. It was only Matt. How do you feel, Roger? Jessica's sterile voice inquired. Not too bad, I responded. I mean, why do I feel so normal? Oh, I don't know. Maybe I had a bit of compassion and wished you could function normally for about 10 more minutes. The light flicked on, momentarily blinding me. I did it because I still love you a little, Roger, she admitted, not much, and the hate outweighs the love, but I didn't want you to endure all the mental torment that's coming by next week. Are you leaving? I asked. Hell yes. What? Did you think I'd stick around here and be reminded of what life used to be like? She snapped. No, I guess not. Good, I'm leaving in a minute. She turned away from me, gazing out the window silently, tears falling lightly. Dude, Matt whispered, is that the necklace on her dresser? Yeah, I whispered back. I think I can grab it, man. Don't risk it, I muttered, puzzled by my lack of fear and revulsion. Ignoring me, Matt lunged into the room, diving for the accursed piece of jewelry. Holy shit, Jessica exclaimed, turning around just as Matt grabbed the golden necklace. I wish Roger was back to himself, Matt shouted, but nothing happened. You idiot, Jessica chuckled, the thing can't change what's already happened. Damn, I can't help you, man, Matt said, closing his eyes. Suddenly, a smile spread across his face. You need to be near the thing to remember what it was like before, right? He asked me. Yeah. Then I wish Jessica was downstairs. With that, she vanished, no theatrics, no special effects, just gone. And I wish she forgets this day entirely and believes she's just a member of Roger's family. Nice wish for her, I remarked, at least she gets to be somewhat happy now. Yeah, Matt laughed. You want me to do the same for you? No. I felt my palms sweat and my clothes chafe against my skin. My brief period of normalcy was ending. I began to tremble, my hands and legs moving beyond my control. Oh my God! I exclaimed. I can't believe this. Starting to feel the changes now? Matt asked, concerned. Yeah, I replied. Do you want me here, or do you want to go through this alone? Oh no, I shouted. I don't want anyone to see me like this. Get the hell out of here now. Go talk to Jessica or something. Go talk to the bitch. He walked away, and I stood in the hallway, trying to maintain some composure. Over my heavy breathing and racing heartbeat, I heard him climb the stairs and invite Jessica outside. Another minute, and the door slammed shut. I screamed. Oh God, oh God, oh God. I muttered. What the hell is happening? I knew the answer, but my mind refused to accept it. I ran down the corridor, bumping into walls, feeling the uncomfortable movement of certain unfamiliar body parts. I felt disoriented, as if I had been dismantled and reassembled into someone else. It was far from pleasant, in fact, it was downright awful. I sat in my bedroom for hours, crying and banging against the walls. Nothing felt right. How could I live like this? I shouted until my voice grew hoarse, then whimpered. At some point, my tears stopped flowing, but I continued to dry heave. My eyes burned and swelled, everything ached. I couldn't bear to look in a mirror. So, that's the story of how everything turned out great for everyone else I know, except me. Matt ended up with Jessica, my brother Daniel, who used to be a troublemaker, somehow became part of the mainstream. My family found happiness and unity. And that's how my life turned into a nightmare. Fast forward 2 days, and here I am, searching for my place in the universe under another bright morning sky. Matt stands nearby, silent, staring into the pond with his hands in his pockets and his hair fluttering in the breeze. I gaze at the sky and let out a sigh. Throw it in, man, I tell him. Are you sure? He asks. You promised, I reply. Right, he says, and I will. But seeing how much you're struggling, I thought maybe you'd like me to wish for you to accept your fate. No. Okay, then on the count of 10, stop me at any point. 10. His offer tempts me, but I can't bear the idea of accepting this body. 9. But would it really hurt? 8. Being happy has to be better than enduring constant torment. 7. What am I even saying? I don't want to be a woman. 6, 5, 4. But whether I like it or not, this is who I am now. 3. I'll have to learn to live with it somehow. 2. I despise myself for what I'm about to do. 1. Okay, I shout, but I don't want to forget my past. Just wish for me to accept who I am, and then throw it in the pond, okay? You got it, man. I wish Roger was in his room. Boom. The shift in perspective is astonishing. One moment, I'm standing by the pond, and then everything just shifts. It happens in the blink of an eye. I sink into the chair, completely disoriented. Everything's going to be all right, I realize. I might even come to appreciate being female. My mind is muddled for a few minutes, but then I move forward. I'm all right, and that's what truly matters.